Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And today we have a really, really, really good friend on the show today. Just absolutely amazing. Tell you some funny experiences with my family and him. But his name is David Gowens, and he is one of the, I don't know how you call yourself, owners, creators of the Capital Impact Group, basically helping you align your life so that you actually are experiencing more freedom in every area of your life, which he'll get into. But that's really his goal. One of the things that he says often is he believes that entrepreneurship is the last stand for freedom in America. And I actually believe that myself, which is why it's so easy to relate, have a conversation, because we believe similar things. Now, one funny experience that just happened. I mean, I've known David. How long have we known each other, David? Like
a couple of years now.
Yeah, it's been like a year and a half, maybe. About a year and a half. And so I met David, and in that experience, he is playing all out, and you'd not know all of his life experience, but he's just like, he shows up front row, participated in the conference that I was speaking at, and played all out, held nothing back. And his partner in business is, I would say, played all out, but is a way more calming energy than David. David's like, that's my interaction with David.
That's a compliment. I think that's a compliment.
No, it's a super compliment. And it's funny because everybody has different, what I love most about David, one of the things I love most about him is that he's able to be often genuine in any capacity that you need him to be. So he's not like a chameleon who's changing himself to be somebody for you from a negative perspective, but he's such a wide-ranged individual with lots and lots of experience, and he's so good at reading people and understanding what you might need in that moment, and so he knows how to fulfill that energy for you. So that, like, I don't know if that's making sense. Really, the truth is you should come to an event and you should meet David after this introduction here, but I told my wife about him because, and she's experienced many times where I'm done with work, in air quotes here, I'm done with work, and I come out of the office and I'm like, I need to call David really quick. And then it turns into an hour and a half long phone call. And she's like, are you going to call David again? How long is this call going to be when she sees his name show up? This was all before she ever met him. And then like, a month ago, we go out to dinner together with a bunch of friends and clients, and she meets David and his wife, Taylor.
Charlie.
And we're at dinner, and she now gets to experience what I've experienced of David, like how genuine he is and how real he is and just what he needs to be for each person. So he's a different person for me often than he is for Charlie or for anybody else he meets. And that's okay. Not like a different, I don't know how else to say that because it doesn't, I want it to sound fake, but you're not fake. I don't know the word
for it. No, I love what you're saying. Let's give it a brand. I don't know if this is the right brand for it, but it's like a chameleon is still a chameleon, even though it can adapt to its environment. It is 100% it. So it's like being a authentic chameleon, maybe.
Yeah, I think when most people think of that type of personality, they think of the manipulative side of it, like, and he's not that at all. So it's the just genuineness of like he knows how to help you and draw stuff out of you based on who you are. And so he interacts with Charlie, and she's like in this euphoric state of, man, David's the coolest person I've ever met. His wife's awesome. We should all become business partners and we should be family forever. Okay. That's how she leaves this experience. And
you have my vote.
yeah. So then a few weeks ago, we were doing a mastermind and I knew he was coming down to Arizona. So then I told her, yeah, we're doing this. And she's like, is David going to be there? I was like, yeah, David's going to be there. She said, well, is he going to come visit me? I'm like, I don't know. If there's time for that, I'll ask him, So anyways, one late night, at the end of one of the days of our mastermind, I decided to surprise her, bring her home a gift of David, and which turned into a really wonderful conversation that ended up, honestly, and I said this multiple times, but I think it's one of the top 5 most beautiful moments of our marriage was that experience of being able to see these interactions. And once you get to know who David is at his core, then you'll understand what that means. But I'm going to let David kind of talk about his belief system about life. We don't have tons of time today with him. We're going to get him on another show, but his belief system about life and how he orients himself towards the universe and what his deep desires are to help and serve the other people he's around. Go for it, David. That's your introduction.
Oh, goodness. That's a I don't know if I can live up to that. Please know, first and foremost, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to be with you. The feeling is mutual on so many accounts and so many levels with you and your family. What I love most about these kind of conversations, interactions, is that the thing that I always end up needing that I don't know how to feel, someone that I love shows up to do that for me. And so I appreciate that you're that for me. And I am honored to have moments where we get to share in that together for you and your family as well. So I look forward to going deeper. What are my values? What are some of the things I believe and really, really care about? A long time ago, and I don't know if these are the right words to use, but I remember thinking of environment, experience, and impact were kind of 3 ways to sum up the last 40 years of my life. And I think there's so many other ways that I could describe it, but maybe this one will have some efficiency to it. Environment is both your internal and external. Experience is what we're all having in exchange with those that we care about, the relationships that we're building, the communities that we have, all the different ways that we interact with the world. And impact is the result that we either live while we're going through it, or that we leave when we're eventually gone. And so I've been honored to be able to understand and hopefully stay in alignment to that throughout my life. I didn't walk into it knowing that those things mattered to me. It's like anything else, hindsight's 20/20, and you start to have a better understanding of what those things actually mean and how they showed up in your life. So you don't feel like you switched from one thing to the next, but rather it's a culmination of your piece of work. And your life is a piece of work. Every one of our lives is a piece of work. It is our masterpiece. But the greatest masterpiece is the impression that we leave upon other people's lives, the impact and the way that we show up. A term you often hear me use, Sam, is give and receive. I always say to every group, what are you here to give? What are you here to receive? And always be prepared to understand what that give and receive is, because it's not about the exchange as much as it is to bring you into the presence. So that wiggling of your toes that people talk about to bring you present, or the breathing to bring you present, give and receive is also an act of presence. So those are some of the things I value. Those are some of the things I care about, principles I think of. And obviously there's a lot of tools and detail to get around, but we'll leave it at that and let you fire some more questions off.
Okay. So one of the things that I like about David is he's really good at asking questions different than I ask questions. I've been told that I'm good at asking questions, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I believe it's true because I've been told it so many times. And so I started telling myself that I'm good at asking questions. And I recognize when I see somebody else who asks questions that are different, and I wouldn't say more effective necessarily, but they effectuate a different outcome for sure. And I think that that's really powerful. So when you were, I actually don't know any part of this story, so I'm just curious. I don't know how old you are. I know that he used to have an afro. Now he's bald. Bald ass.
Matches. I'm just teasing.
I know, but he has the coolest curly mustache. So we were on a call with a client the other day, and he was off camera. And then as soon as he came on camera, the client's like, "Is it bad that his mustache just sold me? Let's work together." I was like, "That's." But here's the thing that I'm curious about. When did, I don't know, maybe you were married before, but when did you meet your wife, and what was the process of courtship and determining, because although we're talking to David right now, Taylor is very well paired with David. Like they both have a very similar heart, purpose, objective. Now, are they the same people? No. Are their interests the same? Not really. I mean, not at all, but no, they're two dynamic individuals in their own right, but they're very well equally matched and paired in this universe towards the objective. Very similar to how I would see Charlie and I. Very different, but very equally matched and paired. So what was that courtship like, and what were some of the questions that either she asked you or you asked her to help identify that you really were going to be an effective partnership together?
Oh, I love this. Great question. So first off, when we met each other, courtship was not in the cards. It was friendship. And I'm really grateful that we began with friendship. She was in a relationship, I was in a relationship, and there was no interest to each other of any kind other than that's another cool human being, you know? And we didn't spend any real time together. We didn't really interact at a high level, just out of respect of relationships that we were already in. We came across meeting each other in, I used to perform many years ago. Some of you know, some of you don't. With my afro. And so I'd done some pretty fun stages. I used to travel around the country and dance. That was one of my things that was just a great way to express and create experience. So I would say the courtship piece of it came when over time, my relationship kind of had just dissolved, and hers had nothing to do with our interactions with each other because we weren't really spending time or talking. But the moment that we talked and engaged after that separation of relationships, it just happened to be that we were doing another project together. It was really interesting to see that what bonded us very first was we didn't go bond to go talk about a relationship. We both had to go get gifts for our mothers for Mother's Day. So we went and spent an entire day shopping and talking and laughing about our families, our mothers, and the first connection was our love for our family. Our first connection was our deep gratitude for our mother, and that it was fun to run around trying to figure out what we were going to get them. And that was our first bonding experience. It evolved then to spending more time together. Because we were in a production together, we started to rehearse and practice with each other. And I got to see Taylor's discipline. I have a great care for people. She has a great care for people. Mine's a little more extroverted, as you can imagine. Hers is a little more introverted, but it was fun to watch after a rehearsal of 4 hours that this woman would go out and spend another 4 to 6 hours practicing her craft. And she's used to doing it alone. But for us, it was a bonding experience. We'd go drive around neighborhoods we could never afford to buy into because we were just kids at the time. And it was fun to just watch her work so hard at what she loved so much. And that, I think, was like the kind of laying the groundwork. I remember one time I told her, I think we're going to date one day. And she goes, I don't know about that. You just came out of a relationship and I'm not a rebound girl. And I said, well, if we don't date, I think we're going to kiss. I said, yeah, no, I know we're going to kiss one day. And I'm not that guy. I've never said this to anybody. It's not a game I'm trying to play. It just felt like there was a connection here. And she goes, oh, you think so? And so anyhow, because of all of that setup, the day that we eventually kissed for the first time, it was so memorable for both of us. And I think every day since then, we've just been best friends who advocate for each other's, journey and progress. And as you mentioned, we are different. I think what keeps us in line and why we're such a fit is we know we both come from a similar source and we value similar things, but how we live life and the experiences we have is so different. And I admire the way she does. I think she appreciates the way I do. And that's where we get to expand our experiences by sharing that together.
That's so funny. I've never have heard that story. But it's when Charlotte and I were dating, on our first date, that has its own story, which I probably have told before. Call me if you want more details. But on this specific part of this experience was we were watching this concert, and the couple in front of us, they were like all over each other. Like the chick was like sucking on the guy's neck, sucking on his ear, like all over each other. And we're sitting there behind, like we're on the back, we're in an auditorium, and there's like the back row, we're up against the wall, and then them. So like we couldn't have gotten any farther back, and they were right in front of us. And I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm like, one day we're gonna do that. I'm gonna be doing that to you one day. And she's like, again, this is a first date. Like, this is not like we've had multiple experiences. This is the first date. And she's like, no, never. That's so gross. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, whatever. You'd like it. Like, and keep in mind, this is like after like our first interaction of me telling her that she sucks at texting, or telling her that she's beautiful. Like, anyways, like lots of things happened on that first date. But that was one of the things that I was like, yeah, you'd like that. And she's like, no, I don't. And to be fair to her, she's still not like overly enthused about PDA and like all that.
Yeah.
But I am still, so it happens. But I just think like this idea of like, okay, this is going to happen. The funny thing about this, that was our first date. And I had this rule while I was dating, and this is going to tell you something about me. But when I was dating, I wouldn't kiss girls that I was dating until after they were my girlfriend. And I went home that night. She went home. I went home. It was pretty late. When I get home, I'm living in a bachelor pad. And who's in the bachelor pad? 4 other dudes. And one of these dudes has brought his sister home, like to stay the night or whatever. And so we're up, all of us are up way too late. It's now like 2, 3 in the morning or whatever. Pretty much everybody's gone to bed except for his sister and I. And we were hitting it off. We're having a great time. Anyways, we end up making out for like 2 hours. And this is all in my journal. And it's funny because it's like, she didn't know this until like a month and a half after we started dating. But it's like, wait, you said you weren't kissing girls unless you were gonna, like, until you were their girlfriend. I was like, no, this is different. The people I actually want to have a relationship with, I treat differently than the people who I don't. And she just wanted to kiss and I just wanted to kiss, but there's no relationship going to happen there. And for her, I was like, what is this about? And anyways, it made for an interesting conversation in our relationship, because then what happened is when I did finally ask her to be my girlfriend, I was like, hey, I want you to be my girlfriend, but I still don't want to kiss you. And she's like, what? And all of her friends, they were like, you shouldn't be with him. He doesn't really love you. He doesn't care about you. And it's like, no, the relationships that I cherish the most, I hold to a much higher standard of my interaction than other things that I'm more flippant with. And anyways, that was just a funny experience. No,
I love that. I love that.
You can project it out, and then when it happens, it's the right thing. And it's kind of a funny joke now. I'm sure, like, now not every time you kiss, I'm sure, but like when you do kiss, there's always going to be that memory of like, I said this once that you weren't going to do this, and she made fun of it, right? Yep. And so there's always that
100% right.
So how is that relationship with your wife transferred into your relationship with your daughters?
Those are some good strings to pull right now. First, to set that up, I think it's important to know that a man's job, and I'm not speaking of men and women as in class or separation or we're so different. We all know we have our individual, gifts. To become a man, you have to work really hard at being not the toxic version of masculinity, but the actual like loving, caring, protecting, providing, vulnerable man. And the beauty of a good relationship is, I think they enhance how you can become an even better man. So first you have to learn how to become a man yourself. And then I think your partner helps you become an even better man. Why I say this is because Taylor opened up in me certain things about myself that you can't see directly because you're looking at your life through this lens. And I think that having my daughter now helped me understand it's not what I have to go learn to teach her. It's how I have to be present because we'll learn it together. And in being present, I'll be able to better identify what she needs and how to love her, than tell her what I think she needs to hear based on my past experience. Sure, those things may come up about, and they'll come when they need to come. But my love for Taylor I think she's softened the edges of me in all the right places I feel like a good listener, but I feel like a better listener, not to solve problems, just a listener to love. I feel like she's helped me understand how to she really embodies being a woman. She loves being a woman, even all the difficulties of being a woman, just like all men and women have difficulties that we have to contend with in our own sexuality. And I really appreciate that she helps me understand that I don't have to be completely terrified of my daughter becoming a woman. So I get excited to say that I've always said I have the best mom and dad on the planet. And I am honored to now say that the best mom I've ever witnessed is my wife. And I get really excited about that every day. So I have the best mom, but the best mother on this planet is the mother that mothers my daughter. And I'm grateful for that. So
yeah, that's a awesome way of putting that. I love that I just get to ask you whatever I want and you're going to answer.
I like that.
I don't normally ask these questions. I never know
what's going to come out.
But here's the thing. David he runs a very successful business and helps people identify what freedom means to them and what that looks like and how to transfer that multi-generationally. And we'll probably get more into that aspect of David next time we have a conversation. But I'm going to keep going down this route of, in a relationship, how old were you when you eventually did get married?
So Taylor and I met. I'd been in maybe 3 or 4 relationships before her. We met when I was around 23. I think she was just going to be turning 21. And we had dated for a long number of years. It was probably, and we officially, don't judge me.
That's all good.
Right when about 2 years ago, my daughter's not quite 2 yet, about 2 or 3 years ago, my mother-in-law passed away. She was letting go of her oldest daughter. So I think earning that relationship took more time, even though Taylor and I have been together for about 17 years now. It didn't take the full 17 years, but you could imagine, because our relationship started loving on our moms together, it mattered to both of us that our moms were fully excited about us being together. So our focus was more our relationship with our family. And so only in the last 2 years did we really bring all that together. But it's been great to realize that 15 of those years of just being best friends. We haven't done the legal document yet. We did the ceremony, but it's and mostly because our focus has been our daughter. But that's been, I'd say, the journey up to this point.
So what I think is interesting about this is what do you feel like you have learned most? Like, what's the biggest thing that you've learned that you've had to change in yourself? Mm-hmm. I say had to, that you've chosen to change as a result of learning from Taylor.
The biggest thing that I've chosen to change because of being with Taylor. I would say I feel like a good listener and good at asking questions, as you stated, but not to an end or a destination always, is what she taught me. To just hold space sometimes is to listen, to just be there for someone, or to learn and grow in that moment. Sometimes I think because of business and you work toward being successful and being a good problem solver, your questions and your all those things were to a destination or an ultimate end. And it wasn't that I didn't care. It's that I always cared, but I kind of forgot how much it mattered just to be present, even though I felt like I was pretty good at it. It's another level when you when you're taught that through someone that you love very deeply. So she taught me how to just hold space better, and ask questions better.
Awesome. And I know for me that's been something I'm always, it's a constant area of improvement to be more present, and to listen effectively. And sometimes I wish that I had recorded conversations with Charlie that we never recorded. So it's like, it's kind of in our mind, but I wish that we had them recorded. Like the conversation the other night where it's like, man, how cool would that have been to have recorded, but nobody will ever be there other than the people who are there. Like the four of us that were there, that's the only people who ever get to see or hear that experience, really. Like the only way to experience it. So that's amazing. And with that, like understanding the presentness and the focus, how have you seen that help you navigate building business or building partnerships in business, and knowing when is something a healthy fit and it's a right fit, and when is something like, not that there's anything like you're just not aligned with somebody. It doesn't mean that they're bad or you're bad or anything. It's just like, yeah, it's not going to be a good partnership because of alignment. How has this skill, being present and listening, helped you align yourself better with the right people in business?
I love this. I'd say that the biggest part for me has been a relationship of love is not void in business, because we love something, our partnership, the product or service, the clients that we're serving, our employees or our team. And so to be able to stand in that place of stillness and peace allows you to not just think of how you can serve or be served. It allows you to understand what's actually going on with that individual and with yourself. And I'd say it served me in efforting less is the best thing I can say. All the other forms of asking questions, although they have their place, you kind of start to notice that it can fall into efforting, where when I effort less and just kind of go into a flow, and I'm not trying to hug trees on this, but it's easier to see what this person's intentions, needs are, and without it affecting what I need, want, or feel. It's easier to share what I need, want, or feel without it affecting how I'm trying to plant a seed or an agenda. Even though those weren't me before, I'd rather be more extreme and deliberate to explain the differences of the two. So I would say, so then when you find a fit of a client or a partner or a team member, when you find those fits or a company to serve, it's built on something greater than a transaction. And when there's, not that we aren't living in a immense amount of transactions, but the reality is that I want to build something off of relationships that have substance, and that it's deep and not wide, as we've heard those terms before. So I think the depth helps you anchor for longer, and you then don't have to move as much. You've heard me use the term before. I don't want to move toward a destination. I want to become more gravitational. I want to have a greater frequency so that those that are in the same frequency are naturally drawn to me. And so then my skills and all these talents of finance or taxes or cash flow or exit planning, all those skill sets now can be utilized in the most effective manner because I'm with the people that I naturally serve the best anyway, versus trying to serve anyone and everyone just because of the skill that I have. Although I want to serve everyone and anyone, I think it works better when there's some root system to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it does. I'm going to ask a question because in my mind, I have this visual. I often think in pictures, which I'm learning more. I shouldn't say I often do. I would say I'm learning to think in pictures more. And over the last probably 3 months, it's become more and more potent in my life that I'm visualizing things. I'm also learning AI, and now I'm like, I want to figure out how to get what's in my mind picture onto paper or onto an image. But when you say efforting, explain what you mean by the word efforting. I just looked up the definition, but I'm curious, like when you're using that, oftentimes in language, we use words and we just assume their context and assume the meaning by the context. But I'm curious, because you used efforting, and that's not a typical way that somebody would use the word effort. What do you mean by that specifically? What do you believe that word means?
So when I'm efforting, it means that I'm not present, to put it simply. When I'm efforting, I could be on, it doesn't mean that it doesn't take effort or energy. But when I'm efforting, and the term that I'm using it, or the context that I'm using it in, it means that I'm not present, and I will always have my past and my goals with me. So to try and focus on them in the moment that I'm supposed to be with someone, and to only have that lead the charge, my all my skills or relationships of the past, to have that be overly present in the conversation, or my agenda or focus or future or goals or vision to be overly present in the conversation, is to not be just available for what's there and what could be had if I were to be present. So that's what I would say is efforting for me in this particular context.
Okay. So I'm going to share the definition of that word. Also, I want to share something that I find it's kind of tangential, but also is important. I've decided a long time ago in my life that it's easier not to lie to people. I know it's like, what? You should decide that. Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't decide that, guys. Like, you'd be surprised. They're like, oh, I told this one person one thing, and that one person one thing, and that one person one thing, and now I've got to remember what part of which conversation. And so it kind of annoyed Charlie, and still probably does a little bit, that I don't remember a lot of things. When I say remember, that's a word that people don't actually understand very often. Mm-hmm. So if you put a hyphen between re and member, you'd have a better understanding of what the word remember means than or could mean in your reality, rather than that you store information. There's a difference between recalling and remembering. Okay. So I don't recall information very well. Okay. I remember often. So what do I mean by that? Rather than storing all of this stuff that I used to say or whatever, then I told Charlie, look, I don't know what I ever told you. I'll just assume that whatever has happened in the past is you win any argument in that regard, because I'm not going to recall what happened. I don't have time and energy and space in my mind to recall all of those things. And sometimes that bites me in the butt because I forget to do stuff. I forget to, whatever. But from a spiritual sense, if I believe something, if you want to know what I believe, you can ask me and I'll tell you what I believe today. And yes, with many things, those beliefs are probably going to come out the same way as I told it to you 5 years ago, because I'm not recalling what I told you 5 years ago. I'm remembering source. I'm going back to member myself with source. I'm becoming part of source, accessing the belief or the identity that's held, and rehearsing what I'm receiving as a belief to you. So when I remember, I'm remembering back to source or God in my belief system, right? I'm remembering back to that and then expressing what I'm interpreting God wants back to you. And so that's a level of presenceness where you don't have to be worrying about recalling certain things, because if you forget the train of thought that you were on, you forget how to recall something, then how good are you at remembering back to source so you can make that connection again? Like reconnecting, remembering. So the effort side, so in my mind, in this visual picture that I'm hearing you talk about, and I don't know if you visualize it the same way, but I think of like Einstein's theory of gravitativity and this plane that we live in the universe and all of the solar systems. If you are the thing that's the heaviest in the solar system, and all of the other objects in the world are people, okay? If you become heavier, then it's natural that you've then created this funnel of the universe, and those that are in a movable position that could gravitate towards you, all they see is a direct line because they're literally rolling towards you. Thus, you're gaining gravitativity pull as you're being connected with your ideal client. On the flip side, if you're efforting, there's two ways to think of this. One, what if you were the gravitational pull and you're trying to roll up to meet each person halfway?
Yeah. Yeah.
How stressful is that? And how disorienting is it for everybody else who's rolling? If you like get a sheet, put a basketball in the middle and like see how the center of gravity rolls around and moves. That would be disconcerting for a lot of people if you are just constantly moving that around. But if you're centered, then everybody can approach you and you can be the center of what you need to be for people from all sides. And that's what I was trying to describe David as before, is like, he's very good at being that person, and you can roll to him from one side or the other side, and everybody has a positive experience going to his gravitational pull, because even though they're approaching him from a different side, they're getting the same real David. And they all need a different side of that. If he was efforting, as he says, up to these individuals, then you might be rolling to where you think he is because you thought he was one person, and then he rolled and now you're getting a different perspective of him and you're like, well, that's not who I thought David was. And that would be kind of annoying. Or even worse, what if you flip the funnel upside down and now it's a cone? And now he's rolled off his topple to go down to somebody else's level, and he doesn't exist where you needed him to be when you needed him, because he's no longer at the top. He's down in the gutter with somebody else. But that's not how David rolls. David's not down in the gutter. At least I've known him for a year and a half. I've never seen him be down in the gutter. I'm not saying he doesn't have his bad days or his hard days, whatever. He's human too. But he is the gravitational pull in his life and how he set himself up. So the definition of effort as a noun is exertion of physical or mental power, an earnest or studious attempt, right? Something done by exertion or hard work, right? If you're having a conversation and you're having to exert yourself and it's hard work to have a conversation, that's probably a good idea not to go down that path. You know, like if it's hard, some people say, oh, well, all marriages are hard. I'm like, mine is not hard. I think if your marriage is hard, I feel bad. Like that should be something talked about. Now, sometimes communication styles are different and there's learning each other. That's different than like constantly being at odds with somebody.
Yeah.
Learning what is meant by each other, that's a question. That's a process of questioning and gaining understanding and perspective. I have a phrase that I don't know where I heard it. I think it's from a Paul Cardell song, but no, I don't know where it's actually. I have no idea where I heard this, but I like the quote, so I say it. If it's yours, let me know. But there's only two types of people in this world: the ones you love and the ones you don't know. And I do like that. I live my life by that. Like if I'm experiencing anything other than love, compassion, and understanding for somebody, then that's an indication that I have not gotten to the point where I can see the world through their eyes yet. And I need to gain greater perspective and start to ask more questions. Like, yes, I don't have to agree with their perspective, but once you can understand somebody's perspective, you can have more compassion for their world. You still may not agree with it. You still may never choose to operate your life that way. You still may avoid them because you're like, although I love you and I feel connected to you, I hope you're in prison for the rest of your life, because yes, you're dealing with some demons, but you're an unsafe human to have in humanity. Like there's people that I feel that way about. Doesn't mean I don't love them. It doesn't mean I don't have compassion for them. It must be really hard being them, not understanding how to properly assimilate and have cultural or societal awareness. Like that must be really difficult, that you were so unaware that you ended up in a concrete box for the rest of your existence. Like that sucks. And I have compassion for you. I still think that's the best place for you, but and so understanding those kind of interactions has been fascinating. We're going to have to end this short, David.
No, that's okay.
I appreciate you so much for every capacity in life. Every time I roll towards you, I always get David, and I appreciate that. And I think everybody I've introduced you to, they experience the same real truth and realness of who you are, and the sincerity, the genuine nature of who you are. Next time we chat, we'll get more into what it is you do and how you actually serve people and why somebody might want to start rolling his direction. But even if all you got out of this was understanding who he is, you know he's a great person to be connected to, because you never know how he's going to show up for you, but he'll show up how he needs to or how you might need him to. So where's the best place to get a hold of you or interact with you or hear more about you?
So I would say I need to step up my Instagram game, because that's where some of the most fun relationships are that I've come across outside of events. Dr. Gowens, Gowens. That's Dr. Gowens is where you can find me there. This has been really fun for me too. I just want to extend my gratitude. Sam, you know I love you. I trust you. I accept you as I do your audience and as I do myself. And I look forward to the next adventure, brother.
Awesome. Hey, thanks a bunch. And we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy Show. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.